What is extremely rare but people think it's very common? Successfully saving someone trapped by a fire via re-entering a burning building. The mortality rate for this is really high and fire departments have petitioned to stop showing this in movies because it usually results in another life being lost. Burglary in the middle of the night. Burglary happens most often during the day, when nobody is home. No burglar wants to break in and try to sneak around your place while you're sleeping. His biggest concern is to evade detection. It makes more sense to work in the daytime. In all likelihood, that noise you heard outside was a car or raccoon or your imagination. Go to sleep. That's exactly what a burglar would say. Don't trust this person. Being able to make it as a musician or actor or many other creative jobs. And by making it I mean being able to earn some serious money or even just to make a living by just performing and not doing anything else. Most of the time, you will have to have multiple side projects that only roughly are related to actually performing. Or so I've heard. If there are people with personal experience in these fields, I'd love to read your comments. I have a friend that's an amazing songwriter. He has written with and for many famous bands and artists. Lots of people you've heard on the radio. He has been nominated for a Grammy twice, once in the last year or two. He has to work side jobs to make ends meet in between royalty checks. There is just no money in music anymore unless you are Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga. Epilepsy being fall to the floor, spaz uncontrollably, froth and all that due to flashing lights. Epilepsy is recurring seizures, and there are lots and lots of seizure types, and often they aren't noticeable, even immediately so for the sufferer. Triggers for these seizures are more likely to be hyperventilation, stress, alcohol or sleep deprivation, or stuff like that, than strobe lights. Epilepsy is also pretty common, and it's likely you go to school or work with someone who has it, in a reverse of the title. Ironically for this post though, the kind of epilepsy I have does have the stereotype. Go figure. Meteorologists getting the forecast wrong. People only notice when it happens and ignore the other dozens of days that are right on or at least very close. A woman's water breaking during pregnancy. It only happens outside of the hospital like 15% of the time, but in the movies it's always the dramatic telling of when a baby is coming. Whoa, I did not know this. Big dongs. At work right now so I'm not googling the stats, but if you've ever had the pleasure of perusing through the Craigslist personals, you should. It's gold. There are a ton of women wanting a guy with at least a 9-inch long. 9 inches must be larger than 90% of pornsters. That's your bottom limit. You have no idea how rare a dong over 9 inches long is. 2 former co-workers, women, once claimed that they believe 8 inches was the average dong size. They are setting themselves up for a life of disappointment. Hitting a jackpot. That's why casinos exist and are hugely profitable. Heck, late last year in my city a woman won $1.20 million just on a VLT at a local bar. Great for her, but you know it led to an increase in people burning through their paychecks on those machines. Cow tipping. Everyone knows some kid who claims to have gone out into the countryside and pushed a cow over for a laugh. Know how many people have actually tipped a cow? None. It's a bloody great big beast and it isn't going to let you shunt it. With the amount of cow tipping stories that exist you'd think there'd be more video evidence of it occurring. But it's just a lie city kids tell their mates. I tipped a cow when I was out snipe hunting. Wasabi. You can only really find the real stuff in Japan. And even there it's really rare. I had a friend who thought wasabi was just the Japanese word for horseradish. Shark attacks. I live in Perth, supposedly one of the shark attack capitals of the world. Sure, we see them occasionally, but actual attacks are very rare. I live in the other Perth and shark attacks are even rarer. Being in an airplane crash. It's 1 in a million but a lot of people I know are still more scared to travel on a plane than in a car. ROSC return of spontaneous circulation after CPR. I believe the actual success rate is 3%, and those people are very likely to have brain damage. Media would have you thinking it's a great catch-all for any unconscious person. Here's the thing though, a lot of times the CPR isn't what gets them circulating on their own again. What it does however is maintain blood flow so that by the time they get the treatment that will get them pumping again, they are less likely to have brain damage. Yes, the success rate is low, even lower if it's performed poorly, but even 3% is better than 0%. Amusement ride incidents. You are more safe on the ride than driving to the park itself. The vast majority of incidents that occur are because of rider misconduct. Follow the rules, trust the operators, and you'll be fine. Vanilla. Real vanilla. There was a ton of vanilla available a couple years back, which in turn drove the prices way down. So the vanilla farmers of Madagascar and Indonesia, who are pretty much the only ones farming vanilla orchids, said screw orchids, I'm burying the trees they grow on and planting something else. Farming orchids is a real, labor-intensive chore and they are picky plants that needs hand pollination, that is transferring pollen by hand from one vine to another, which takes forever to do. Now, they are vines too, which means once you cut down trees they grow on, you can't just go oops, prices are up again, better grow orchids again. No, you have to wait until the trees they wind up into are grown. So vanilla is now scarce and expensive as heck, and it will take some years before that changes. Meanwhile, we're all paying around $30 for 3 ounces of vanilla. Everything with vanilla taste is with added vanillin, which is the chemical vanilla tastes like, but it's nowhere near the same taste as real vanilla, which is delicious and delicate and awesome. TLDR. Boring old vanilla. Based on movies, I'd say architects. Every professional worker in movies is an architect who goes to work every day with rolled up drawings hoping they're ready for the big presentation that will make or break their career. If the movies were real, about 30% of my friends and relatives would work for local cable news. Autistic people being geniuses or savants. I work as a behavior therapist for autistic children. Many people seem to think that autism means a child is only socially awkward but incredibly book smart. The huge majority of the clients I work with are far behind in cognitive development, which leads to them being far behind in education and related areas like reading and basic math. In high school we took a group of autistic children to the movies as chaperones. Great kids, but the one I was hanging out with could do almost nothing school related, but could name every different form of Kirby, which episode and games each version appears in, as well as enemies. Pretty impressive, but he could only focus on remember one thing, Kirby. Getting killed by a serial killer who comes out with a mask and a knife every Halloween night. How would he have the time to kill that many teenagers? Can confirm it is rare, it only ever happened to me once. The fit guy laughing at the fat newbie at the gym. When I was fat getting into shape, I got nothing but positive reinforcements from these guys to never give up and keep going. My fat friends were paranoid people and assumed people were laughing at them. In reality, gym goers were just being social and laughing about their conversations. From my experience at the gym, usually people don't really give a crap what you're doing or what your body type is, unless you're either being a dong or being dumb. Creating a successful business in a person's garage or basement. It's a big American mythos that most successful businesses were a labor of love built after work with nothing but sweat and determination, especially regarding tech. In reality, most were made in an office setting and simply had a better marketing strategy compared to their peers. Also, don't underestimate the ability to acquire startup capital. You can have a vision, but without the funding, it ain't happening. Miscarriage is way more common than most people realize. People just don't talk about it. Astronomer here. Total solar eclipses. Hear me out. Obviously, we know that they're not common at any given point on Earth, but you'll have about one a year somewhere on the planet, so it's not unreasonable to see one if you plan a little. But with that context, it turns out our moon is the only moon we know of that is the exact same size of the sun in our sky. Mars's moons, for example, are captured asteroids too puny to cover the sun's disk, and the further out you go the planet's moons are so big it more than covers the tiny size of the disk. So, with that, 100% of total solar eclipses where you actually get the sun obscured and see the corona and all that jazz happens on Earth. And this effect won't happen forever either because the moon is moving away from us a few inches a year. In a few 100 million years no one will see total solar eclipses anymore. My dream is that one day, Earth will be a galactic tourist hotspot because of this. Barroom brawls. The vast majority of us haven't even thrown a punch in anger, let alone got the whole pub to join in with us in some choreographed mayhem. My granddad implored me not to go near any bars when I moved to the US. He was afraid of all the bar brawls he saw in the movies and that I would get caught up in one. Deaths caused by nuclear power. It's actually far safer than just about every other type of power generation in terms of deaths caused each year. Edit. This blew up. Wish I could stay to reply more, but work calls. Fun story. I was stationed aboard a nuclear powered submarine and everyone has to wear a small device that detects the amount of radiation you're exposed to. I wasn't a nuke. I didn't work in the engine room. I didn't work with the reactor at all. But I worked topside, in the sun, and I got more radiation exposure than almost every nuke on board. School bullies being school bullies because of their poor conditions or because of an event in their lives. Most of them are much happier and richer than the kids they're crapping on. Agree. My bully had a really nice dad and a good life. It was just that he found it funny to torture me because I was different and easy prey. Welp. Plutonium in 1955. I'm sure that in 1985 plutonium is available at every corner drugstore, but in 1955 it's a little hard to come by. OCD. Half the population act like they have it but only a small percent really do. Humans just generally like symmetry and tidiness, which doesn't even relate to actual OCD much, but people are ignorant and naive. I remember my abnormal pish professor in college giving an example from when he was a private practice psychologist. He said the woman would go around the house and flick all of the light switches and deadbolts a certain amount of times each hour in order to stop herself from poisoning her entire family. It's far more than being a neat freak. The way they have sex in movies. They never wear condoms, do drams it and dry right away and always comes in the girl. Never any oral, and under the covers, in particular with someone they just met. Real life people women want oral and foreplay, and don't let random dudes they met cream be them. For movie sex to happen you would have to be with a long-term partners, so tested, birth control pills or IUD. The girl is one of those chicks who gets wet in no time. It's a quickie, and the room is super cold. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.